Happy New Year, everyone! So, it's been a few weeks after the end of term one of my journey to a master's degree in responsible AI. So, a little update. I'm done. Like, the term is done. And wow, that last few weeks was really intense. I barely had sleep. Actually, the whole cohort, my batchmates, we were we were all running on fumes. Like we just wake up in the morning. At least for me, wake up in the morning, go to work, then go straight to working on the assessments, the final assessments, and it was intense. Not in the way that they were hard. They were adequately, the difficulty was adequate and really challenging, but the workload was intense. And I've never had hell weeks, plural, like that since ever, since college. You know, uh, but thankfully, got to finish everything. I had to make I had to make some sacrifices here and there. Like for AI ethics class, I wasn't able to actually finish the assignments anymore, the ungraded assignments, so that I could, work on adding more points. But I didn't need it anymore. I just wanted to work through all the assignments so that I could, learn further. But didn't really have time anymore, so I had to sacrifice it. The huge time sink, I think I mentioned this in my previous vlog, is the Kaggle competition for our machine learning class. And actually, I decided to join another competition and just abandon my my first competition, which was, I think, if I remember correctly, it was about predicting diabetes on patients. Because I wasn't really progressing anymore, and I was implementing algorithms that weren't taught in class. So might as well move on to another project, start start from scratch, and just apply or just limit the algorithms that I use to just the things that were taught in class. So the task for the competition is to predict if Kobe Bryant will make or miss a shot depending on the data provided. So each competitor was provided the whole data of all of Kobe Bryant's shots in his NBA career, and it had just a few shots that didn't have data for if it was made or missed, and those particular data points will make up for the shots that you need to predict. But before I proceed, before I go on, I forgot to tell you that there had been discussions in class with the professor for this subject, for the machine learning project, and we raised that it was very hard to actually achieve high ranking in competitions in Kaggle due to several factors. Like some of the competitors are whole teams, companies even. And some of them actually do this for a living, and some are just, Kaggle junkies. So for us to actually compete there and get the criteria of you know sorry of getting to the top 50% of the rankings of the leaderboard is quite hard. So we brought that up with the professor, and the professor was very gracious and very understanding, and he actually tweaked the the final assessment to account for that. So he didn't remove that requirement, but he added another option for you to garner or get that grade that you need. So if you, for example, don't meet the 50% requirement or the 50% leaderboard requirement, end up so that you could have a good grade, you could instead explain in your paper the thought process, why you think you were failing in getting that ranking, and just justifying and providing the insights that's needed to exemplify that the student understands what's happening in that in his or her model. So that's what I went for. Just have fun with the Kobe Bryant assessment or the Kobe Bryant competition. And it was actually a competition that's already over, but it was still accepting late submissions just for practice. So there was no real pressure to compete real time with other players or other competitors. Just had to compare the accuracy of my models with the legacy leaderboard or the historical leaderboard. So I did that. I really had fun with that. And I added some visualizations that could, spruce up my report in my Jupyter notebooks. And it's fun. I really enjoyed the exercise. So that was the huge time sink. I think I spent more than a week tuning, training, and running the model to predict to perform its predictions. But all in all, I didn't really get a good ranking. But I learned a lot, especially in managing your models in your Jupyter notebooks. But I think in the future, I won't be using Jupyter notebooks anymore. I'll probably be writing my code directly on Python, using Python scripts, and maybe leveraging VS Codes. I think there's an option there to actually run things line by line, or select a piece of code and you can run that block of code only instead of running the whole script. I think there's an option in VS Code to do that. So I'll probably just opt to do that instead of using Jupyter notebooks, because Jupyter notebooks are hard to manage, especially in controlling or managing the versions. I mean, you could use Git, but they're practically, I think, JSON files. So Git doesn't really do well with those types of files, as opposed to a Python file, Python script, where it could compare the previous version and the new version line by line. And also, it would also teach me to how to actually perform machine learning in terms of a full development pipeline, like in real world production, instead of, doing it in a classroom setting using just Jupyter notebooks. So probably this next term, I'll do that for all things that need Python and notebooks. So after that, the grades were revealed, and I did really well in all subjects. I really actually needed to finish all the ungraded assignments for the machine learning class so that I could spruce up my grade. I mean, again, I really don't care much about the grade itself. I just want to, maximize what I can squeeze out of myself and out of the subject, and see how far I can take it, right? So best effort and see where things fall. So at the end of the term, and when the grades were revealed, all the subjects except for machine learning, I got, I think, A plus with more than 100 points out of 100 grades because, because of the addition bonus points from attendance and completing ungraded assignments. But for machine learning, I only got an A, I think 87 out of 100. That's already considering the bonus points for attendance, which is 5 points, and completing all assessments or the ungraded assignments, which is another 5 points. So if you remove all the ungraded and the ungraded assignments and the bonus for attendance, I would have had just 77 points, which is still good. The passing grade is 50, but I would, of course, if you could get something higher, it's better. And 87 is not bad. I'm actually, just satisfied with it. Could have done better, but the assessment, the final assessment, which accounted for actually 70% of our grade, was just too much. I got, I think, for 70 points, I got 63, was it? I forget. But despite, the adjustment on the criteria and the rubric for grading for the final, actually, it wasn't the final assessment, the second assessment. The final assessment, I did pretty well, but it only accounted for 15% of our grade, so does it really pull your grade up that much? The huge bulk, again, was in the Kaggle competition, which is our second assessment. And I did mediocre. My grade was kind of mediocre, even though, again, they already adjusted the rubric for the grading. I'm sensing that the TA for the class didn't realize that the rubric was changed. Not really sure. So he probably still graded me based on my ranking on the competition, which was, I think, I forget, around top 70% or top 60 plus percent, but far from the top 50%, which would have given me a decent grade. The best grade you would have had would be getting into the top 25%. But I had a feeling that I was still, my assessment was still graded based on my ranking on that competition. But I didn't really contest it anymore. Just, I was really tired. I didn't want to go through that process. And it was decent. Again, 87 out of 100 for my final grade. That's already good enough. So yeah, I wanted to just move on and focus on the next goal, which for me was to actually start reviewing or start studying and preparing for the AIGP exam. So I think I mentioned this in the last vlog, in which I'm planning to actually take a certification exam for the artificial intelligence governance professional provided by IAPP. So yeah, I'm currently preparing for that. And I'm learning a lot, but the body of knowledge that you need to know to pass the exam, it's so vast, so huge. It's kind of overwhelming. Thankfully, there's a class in Udemy that I'm actually finished that's, summarizing things on a high level. And right now, I'm actually just taking practice exams. So to prepare me, to allow me to get acquainted and get comfortable with the type of exam that AIPP is giving for the AIGP certification. So yeah, I went through that course. bought a few practice exams, and I'm just recycling each exam, taking one each one every day to hopefully, prepare me to pass the AIGP exam. And I really want to pass it. I really want to. I've never wanted the certification this bad. Actually, I'm not one for credentials, diplomas, degrees, certificates. But this one, for some reason, it hits different for me. Maybe because it's driven by a mission now to become one of the voices that helps drive AI innovation in an ethical direction instead of what's happening now, that AI companies are free to do whatever they want practically. So yeah, I want to be one of the voices that that builds back the conscience in the technology. So yeah, that's what I'm currently doing. And I think next week, second term of the OPEP program is going to start. Still haven't given us access to the classes yet, so not really sure what's happening there. But yeah, I'm quite excited and also still exhausted. I haven't really had that much rest during the holiday break. Again, because I'm practically just studying from day till night. And, on some days I get some rest, but you go back the next day and do it again. And I forgot to tell you this, but my body actually broke down right after a couple of days after the term ended. The Everything, the exhaustion just fell down on me, the pressure, and my body held up to that point, but couldn't take it anymore. So I actually have a slight cough right now. Like, I'm still recovering, and thankfully it wasn't really. I didn't really have a high fever. I was able to recover quickly, a couple 3 days, but it developed into a cough, and I'm still recovering. I think this is what they call the long fever or long cough that's been brought about by COVID. Whenever I get cough now, it takes a few weeks before it really goes away. The downside of that is I can't really do any sort of workout because I don't want to stress my body. And I've started gaining a bit of weight and uh, right here on my tummy. Um, as you can see, I'm eating while doing the vlog, but hopefully things would come back to normal. I'm worried about the next term because we will be having 6 subjects, 6 courses, which is going to be pretty intense too, more intense than last term. So, yikes! And also, I'm preparing for the AIGP exam, which, by the way, I will be taking. I've already scheduled the exam. I will be taking at the end of the month. So, I'm crossing my fingers. And also, just a bit of announcement. I'll be starting a new podcast, as if I'm not busy enough. But like I said, I want to build my voice in the AI governance and AI ethics space. So I want to start actually doing that. I've been doing that, sharing my thoughts on my Facebook page and in my other social media accounts. But I want to formalize it and build a podcast around it. So I haven't really recorded anything yet, and I plan on recording right after this, the first maybe couple of episodes. But I want it to serve as just a journal for me to dump my thoughts, and maybe in the future, if it gets a bit of traction, invite experts in the AI governance space, or AI in general, to share their thoughts of how things are going, how things are shaping up in the space, and how we think AI should be heading. So I'm very excited about that. And also, again, very anxious because it's going to give me, or, it's going to require a bit of time from me, take away some of my free time to build it. But, it's for a cause, it's for a mission. So, yeah, I'm not complaining. I want this, right? I can't complain. But yeah, that's it for first term of my journey to a master's in responsible AI. And for the next vlog, you'll we will be starting the second term. But thank you for listening and thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.